Good evening, YouTube family. Welcome to another Two Family Homestead live stream. Woo!
Hi, I'm Morgan Gold, and this is Goldshaw Farm. My wife Allison and I used to live in Washington, D.C., but we got kind of fed up with life in the city, so we packed up our things and moved to an abandoned farm in northern Vermont. To put it bluntly, I'm somewhat of a wannabe farmer. I'm a guy who has zero agricultural experience, yet I have boatloads of passion. We've got a 600-tree permaculture orchard, we have a giant decaying barn, and we just started raising 40 khaki Campbell ducks. Little duckling. First real livestock on Goldshaw Farm. Things are starting to happen here on our farm. We make videos about our attempt to build a sustainable farm business and lead the good life here in Vermont.
Cheers. Cheers.
We post videos on our channel every Monday and Thursday, and sometimes we'll scatter some bonus content in between. Now I know you haven't subscribed yet, but why not try it out? Join us as we go on this journey to create an honest-to-goodness farm.
Up.
And I think we'll have some fun along the way, too.
Live.
You're live.
Monday night. Hey folks, how are you? Prep Study with Nana Benda. I see you got 200 subs. Mama Z's Texas Kitchen hit 1K. I think it was Friday night. So she is now monetized. She has been accepted into the program. Morris Patch, I saw you on live earlier. And I just happened to run across Morgan the other night when he was having the impromptu live, and as everything was scrolling around, because when you have over 2,000 subscribers in the chat, I think he had. I mean,
Oh, he had.
You're not gonna see every comment. And towards the end, I said, "So, would you like to be on our Monday Night Live?" And he just happened to see that, and he goes, "Sure." I went right over to the email and I said, "So, how about Monday night?" So here he is. We got him.
Well, and for those of you that maybe aren't aware of this, we had Morgan on before he was a big shot.
Yeah, we knew him when. Yeah.
I think I actually first came on. I was probably under 1,000 subscribers.
Oh, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was back in 2018.
Yeah.
So,
Might as well
He has a
slide
good
him
ball,
all
yeah.
over so people can see him, Daryl.
I'm looking for him.
You're looking for him? He's right over there.
Yeah, he's hiding. There he is. Morgan, say hi to everybody.
Hey guys, how's it going?
This is our duck guru.
Yes.
Yep.
Hey, did you like that thumbnail?
I did. I really like the Goldshaw Farm gold chain pendant that he was sporting. I thought that was the real touch that made that a masterpiece, that thumbnail.
Well, and I was considering earlier about ordering you a Domino's cheese pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. I don't think there's anyone even remotely close enough to deliver.
Exactly. That's why it never transpired.
You don't have DoorDash to your place.
No. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, Seamless, none of that exists.
So you live 5 miles from nowhere.
They're already asking, Morgan, how's your barn cat?
My barn cat. All right. So here, I'll give everybody the quick little barn cat update for the night. So we have really good news. So just this afternoon, she had surgery to repair her pelvis. Her pelvis was broken in like 4 different places. And they inserted a screw and they reset a bone. And so she's looking really good now. And so she's now had 2 surgeries. She had one a couple of days ago to fix a ruptured bladder, the other today to do the pelvis. And so knock on wood, I think she'll be home either tomorrow or Wednesday. So she's doing really good. And so I know everybody's really worried, and I was really, really worried. And so it's looking like things are going to be A-okay with her. And so we got very, very lucky there.
Well, Morgan, I also have to say kudos to your neighbor who took the time to stop and say, hey, I think I hit your cat.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, because we wouldn't even known if something had happened, because it wasn't like we found her. Like, we just were out looking for her for a few hours one day, out looking the next day too, and she was just missing. And yeah, she didn't even show up on our doorstep till about, 30 hours later. And we were just lucky that we found her, because if we had not found her that night and brought her to the vet, she probably would have died in the driveway that night. So yeah, he did the right thing, and then we got some luck on our side, and so it all worked out. But yeah, if anybody ever is in a situation where they hit a dog or a cat, and yeah, it feels horrible, and it's the worst conversation to have with somebody, but to go up to them and let them know that it happened it's so important for a host of reasons. And so yeah, kudos to him for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and of course, where you live, at least wise, I've never been there, but it seems to me that you're kind of far enough out that you know your neighbors, but they're far enough away that you don't have 5,000 cars going past your house every day.
No, we don't live on a dirt road. So most of the roads around here, the really off the beaten track ones are all dirt roads. We have a paved road. So it gets a little bit of traffic, but yeah, I mean, we're talking, during the day, you might have 25, 30 cars an hour. And so it's not that bad. And I mean, it's like I think it's a 25 mile an hour zone, and he really was just going the speed limit. I know him. He goes very slow. So it was one of those things where she darted out in front of him. And so just unfortunate.
Well, and that happens. I mean, just being realistic, it happens.
Yeah.
So how's your orchard?
That's the risk of having like an outdoor animal for sure.
Oh yeah. So how's your orchards doing?
The orchards are doing really good. I was actually just out there. I was going to include a whole tour of that in this video I put out today about our garden, but just it was getting so long. I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be a 45-minute video. But yeah, it's doing good. We have a lot of trees up over like the 7 or 8 foot mark now. And so, we're getting pretty close. We're getting mulberries this year. Our black locust is going crazy. We have some black locusts that are up over 12 feet. Our apple trees are looking great. Our chestnut trees are looking good. The mulberry, the elderberry that we planted in there, it's actually really struggled. It never quite took off. I think that the two biggest failures that we had so far have been hazelnut and elderberry. Just this past spring, I replanted a bunch of hazelnut in a different spot to try again. I'll probably end up doing the same thing with elderberry. I'll plant it probably a little closer to other parts of the farm and hopefully reestablish that either probably not this fall, but next spring, because I'll be just working from cuttings to get it going. So, but the permaculture orchard's there. I'm a couple years off still from getting apples and chestnuts, but it's coming along.
Great. Tell me what's going on with your barn.
The barn. My wife and I were just discussing needing to do another cleaning of the barn. It's coming together. So for those of you guys who don't know, we have this ancient 3-story barn. It's about 130 years old or so. It's about 12,000 square feet. It used to be a dairy barn, and so they would keep hay on the 3rd floor, cows on the 2nd floor, and like manure and horses and pigs on the 1st floor. And it's been falling apart. The first thing we did was we took off some buildings, like some side structures that were starting to collapse, and then we cleaned that up. And last year we restabilized a corner of the barn because that was starting to collapse, and we put in new posts and we sistered a whole bunch of stuff. And so if we fixed that and sealed that off, this year our big project is actually going to be to replace the roof of the barn. And we actually even got a grant from the state of Vermont to help cover some of the costs of replacing the roof.
Awesome.
And so that's going to be a big project for us, probably in the fall. And then, from there, it's just going to be sort of slowly but surely keep chipping away at fixing that thing up.
Great. I know that you were, the last time we kind of talked about that, you had missed an opportunity, or they didn't feel it was worthy enough for a grant of some sort. Is that something you're going to pursue again? Or?
Well, probably last time we talked about it was 2019, and we applied for the grant and we didn't get it. This past year, so for 2020, we actually applied for it and we got it back in, I guess it was back in February. Feels like 20 years ago. So that came through, and it's this program that the state of Vermont has where they want to try to, in the name of preserving the landscape and kind of the heritage of Vermont, and really help particularly with the aesthetics and tourism industry, they want to preserve these old dairy barns. And so, the grants are out there. And so we just kind of worked on an application, talked to the people at the state, took them around, showed them some of our plans for the farm, and ultimately got the grant. So it's a pretty cool program.
Did I see Sydney ask a question? Or was he just making a comment about his haircut?
He was making a comment about his 80s haircut.
His 80s haircut.
Yeah, so I have not gotten a haircut since probably the beginning of March. And I've been meaning to. It's just, for a long time the barbershops were closed, and I don't trust. I mean, I trust my wife in many things. Cutting my hair is not one of them. So sort of been hanging out. I think I might actually get a friend to do it in the not too distant future. Because it's getting pretty ridiculous at this point. But it's definitely a throwback haircut I've got going right now. I feel like I should try to shoot a YouTube video with a VHS camera and make it look like it was shot in the 80s. Because I think with the hair, and I could just find an outfit that looks like the 80s, and it would just be like a lost vlog from the 80s. And I think that in and of itself could be a fun video to make.
That would work. Farmer Brad asked if you were going to be at the HOA this year.
I'm not sure. I want to be at the HOA this year. I had such a good time last year. And so it really just sort of depends what the world's looking like come October. I'm operating and planning on doing it, but not going to say I'm 100% just for a host of reasons. I think, I even heard Amy talking the other day about it, Amy Fuel, who organizes it. And she was saying that they're like not 100% sure. And so, yeah, the event itself could get canceled. And then even if the event happens, I'm not sure if we're going to go. Just it's going to depend on what the climate's looking like, what's happening from a pandemic standpoint. And really from there, I'll make a decision.
Well, how has the pandemic affected Goldsaw Farm?
It's affected us in a couple of ways. I would actually say surprisingly some good, and some challenging. I think on the challenging side, my wife's job. So my wife is a nurse practitioner, and so she is working at a clinic in St. Johnsbury, Vermont here, where she's basically on a regular basis just screening people for COVID. That's like her main gig right now. And, so that's just really stressful. It's hard work. It's hard working with the PPEs. It's challenging. And then it comes with just a host of risks too. So that part's been tough. I think not getting together with friends and family as much, not going to certain events over the summer, not hosting certain events over the summer. I think that's been challenging. I think that the one upside has been actually my day job it's been a nice shift. So I have a day job beyond just the farm and the YouTube stuff. And it's kind of a Monday through Friday, during the day type of job. And I used to have like an hour commute each way to Montpelier, Vermont. And, now I work from home full time. And so that in and of itself has been awesome because I just have extra time in the day to work on the farm. If I need to check on something or deal with something here on the farm, it's not a big hassle to get back and forth. And so that part has been really awesome. And I frankly like working from home. I mean, I spend my whole day, generally speaking, here in this room, talking to people on video conference, just like I'm talking to you guys. And so that experience is kind of nice to me. I enjoy it. And so that's been a big part of the shift with my day job. And so that's been the positive. But, overall, gosh, I wish all this would be over, but I don't know. It seems like it's going to drag on for quite some time.
There's a message here from Bev Dinning, that she sent something to you in the mail.
Oh, okay. I will be on the lookout for that. I haven't checked our post office box this week, but I will do that.
Okay, and I haven't announced it, but it's on the screen here that the phone lines are open, and we already have a caller. So let's see who we got here. This is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
Ahmed.
Hello, my friend. It is me, Rajim Ahmed. And I'm calling to talk to my very good special friend, Morgan. Hello, my friend Morgan. How are you today?
How's it going, Jason? I actually have a funny story to tell about Jason here. I'm glad he called in because I wanted to tell this story and he's here so we can actually tell it. So a couple weeks ago, I put out a video that was like a collaboration with folks where I took packages of eggs and I sent them around to several different Homestead channels and folks basically made videos about the process of hatching and there was one homestead, though, I sent eggs to, and everybody else got ducklings, but this one homestead didn't. I will put the trivia question out there right now, and let's see who gets it first in the chat. Which homestead was
But everybody else has got better postman than I got.
Yeah.
I was wondering, did they, kick and stop the box?
Man, I don't know, but I candled all of them, and they were just a mush on the inside. I think we had one form into a duckling, but it never hatched.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, when we had 3 or 4 of them that were just broke inside the box.
Usually, so when I ship them, I will usually send people 14 eggs, 15 eggs, because you might get 1 or 2 that break. Yeah, 4 or 5 is a lot to break, and then that's a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, they were wrapped really good. I think, the bad thing about the post office, and I know this because I worked in the post office, when they're doing partials like that, it's like an NBA court in there. They're just taking those boxes and tossing them into crates, and then you have to go as the carrier, you got to go get your crate and then divide it up for your route. But if that box was one of the first ones that they tried to 3-point shot into my mail carrier's crate and then all stuff went on top of it. I mean, that's just at that post office. So Lord knows how they treat it in the other postal stops as it goes along. Partials get beat up by the United States Postal Service. If FedEx and UPS wasn't so expensive, that's how we'd send our stuff.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, and that's the thing. So it's like usually like I'll do the flat rate boxes, and it's relatively affordable, and you can mark them as fragile and perishable because they're eggs and they classify as both. But yeah, I think you're right. They do sometimes take a beating if you have some bad luck. That's for sure.
Yeah, because you could tell that. I mean, that's what you sent it in was a flat rate box, if my memory serves me correct.
Yep.
And that box wasn't in the absolute best of shape when it got here, so I don't know if maybe they played rugby with it or soccer.
That's a bummer, man. No, but I guess that goes to show you the odds, and that's why. Because I think I did it it was 6 different homesteads, because it was Jason and Robin at Big Bear, it was Jay at Farmer Jay, it was Don over at Little Mountain Life, it was Tiffany at Our Organic Life, it was who else was it? It was VW
Ben.
Family Farm. Yeah, and was there, I think there was one more, and everybody else got some ducklings, but yeah, I guess sometimes they just play rugby with the box, and there you go.
Yeah, and here's another trivia question for you. I don't know if VW is in the family chat or in the chat or not, but we were all told to kind of keep it hush hush. And who put the first video out about getting a box of eggs from Morgan? Scared me to death.
You're totally right. That was another funny one, and it was just because what happened was I was trying to keep it like top secret, and I was gonna like unveil it in the video, and Ben's video came out, and it was just like, I'm opening the box, here I go, and I was like, okay, change plan.
Yeah, because I sent you a message. I'm like, I thought we were supposed to keep this quiet because I don't want you to be expecting a video from me to come out, and I'm like, Morgan.
No, you were doing it right. But no, that was a really fun collaboration to do overall, just because it was fun to see how different people are hatching eggs all at the same time, and the different methods and the different ways that people deal with some of the issues, and it's just sort of cool to see the outcome, because at the end of any hatching video out there, you always have this like good end to the story, whether it's exactly what you want and you get a whole bunch of little baby birds, or it's not. It will have a story structure to that video that you make.
Yeah, because I know Robin was upset that we didn't get any, because those type of ducks that you sent, those duck eggs that you sent, are ducks that are on her to get list.
Oh, dude, look, I will send you. We'll take it another shot here. I'll send you some this week if you want. Seriously, you want some?
Sure.
All right. Later this week, I'll get a hatching batch going for you. I just hatched out a bunch myself this past weekend. So we had a dozen little ducklings hatch. They are the most adorable thing, I swear. Like you get those couple-day-old ducklings. I was actually shooting some video with them outside today, and just watching them run around when they're so tiny and young, and just so much energy, and they're so fast. It's really cool to see. Mm-hmm. And khaki Campbells are a great egg layer. So if that's what you want, is duck eggs. They're the best breed for that.
Yeah, because our Muscovies, the moms are not that great, but the little ducklings run around here like little gangsters. There's like, what? Mom ain't around. What you gonna do?
Yeah, it's funny too, because I spent most of the spring hatching out goslings, and goslings have a lot more attitude. Ducklings are very flighty and scared, like especially khaki Campbells. Like the goslings, they just are like, what? Like, let's go. They're ready to fight.
So Morgan, how many are you up to now?
How many birds do we have on the farm right now? I'd say we're probably over 100 right now. So we've got 40, 50, 55 goslings or so, or 55 goslings or geese. 20, 32, probably about 35 ducks. And then, like 15, 16 chickens. So, yeah.
Wow.
What
Yeah,
type
no,
of geese do you
and
have?
our number goes up like this, but then come like late October, we'll be probably down to, 30-ish birds or so. So the numbers will go down.
For what reason does that happen?
Well, I mean, it's twofold. So one, we harvest a lot of the geese and we will sell the geese locally here for meat.
Okay.
And that's just part of like our farm business. And then, we do some of that too with the ducks. We will harvest like drakes and try to keep our numbers in check. And so we'll usually just kind of keep those for ourselves and put them in the freezer. And the other thing is though, just the cost. So geese are extremely cheap and easy to keep in the summer around here because we have so much grass and it grows so quick. And they get probably about 90% of their diet at this point just from the pasture. But come winter, when we have 4 feet of snow on the pasture, you're having to pay a fair amount of money to keep feeding those geese. And so, we wouldn't be able to carry that many geese over the winter and have it be financially sustainable.
So, I really don't know. Do you process the ducks in the same manner you do chickens?
Yeah, I think you do ducks and geese, but it's pretty much identical to doing like home butchering of chickens. I think that the biggest difference is the plucking is much harder. Because, waterfowl have those, special oils that keep them protected from water and let the water literally roll off their back. Because of that, it makes it harder to scald the birds and then in turn it's harder to pluck them. And so I think that's the biggest difference. Everything else is pretty much the same as doing a chicken.
The tinker's wife came up with an idea, and I think we need to find out Morgan's t-shirt size, because I think Morgan needs a gangster duck t-shirt.
Gangster duck t-shirt.
And I know just the duck we can put on a t-shirt.
Well, Morgan, what's your
Boy.
t-shirt size?
It's XL.
XL. Okay.
All I needed to know.
And you may not be aware of this, Morgan.
Better than Domino's pizza.
You may not even be aware of this, but we've embarked on a small merchandising venture that we are making merch for people here, as far as t-shirts, mugs, and other sublimated projects.
Yep.
So
Very cool.
Yep.
Okay. So hey, what's going on down there in Georgia, Mr. Jason?
Jason's still on?
Well, he's still on here, but I don't hear him. But I see he's connected.
Gone.
All right. So anyway, he's still connected.
Rochelle, we can do that for you. We can do that.
No, I had you muted so you couldn't hear what I was doing.
I know where
That toilet flush
Jason's
always
at.
interrupts
Yeah.
conversation.
I know where Jason's at.
Wait a minute. There's no flushy in his room down there.
If he's in the house, there is.
I knew just as soon as I stepped into the bathroom, I said, Daryl's going to call me out when I'm in like midstream of going to the bathroom. Sure enough.
It's a normal thing on Marco.
Goodness.
But what's going on down here? Well, we had a pretty bad storm here early this morning. We're getting the second half here in a little bit. And so we're just going to hunker down and hope we make it through. Let's see what else. We're doing the big garden, going around for the second planting and remulching and building our Soskovich chicken tractors for the meat birds that are due to go outside now. And
Jason, have you ever built one of those?
What?
Have you ever built a Soskovich tractor before?
This is the first time, and we got his book, and he was already off on one of the measurements on there. I guess it was
I think that's
printing
piece
error.
cake, because I've built like 3 of them over the years, and there is like one thing. I think it's with like the front side. There's like it's wrong in the book.
Yeah, it's one of the lap joints, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was fun figuring that out. And but I'm hoping that it works out and they do well down here. Our area predators are starting to pick up a little bit, even though we've had some die from lead poisoning here because they got a little bit too close to Jaja and didn't realize Robin could shoot that good. So now I'm even on a better behavior. 'Cause that really kind of spooked me there a little bit. So I really don't pull a lot of jokes with Robin anymore. But yeah, that's all we're doing is we're just kind of building stuff and trying to just move forward by leaps and bounds. This 2020, I mean, I understand we've got the pandemic and then we've got all the issues going on with Joe Public out there, but 2020 has been a really good year for us. We've been able to move forward by leaps and bounds down here. We've been able to really kind of catapult forward. We got the big milking station built that we always wanted to have built. And so we're excited. That's the kind of stuff that we got going on down here. But Morgan, what you said you got, what type of geese do you have?
I have actually 3 breeds going right now. So we have Pilgrim geese are sort of like our main breed that we have. That's like what we hatch ourselves here at the farm. We've got, they're nice because they're slightly smaller geese. They're pretty good tempered, and what's nice is you can auto sex them. So the males are always white and the females are always gray. And so it's really easy to know what you've got. And so when we breed, that's what we have are the Pilgrims. We also have Emden and Toulouse here on the farm now at this point. And so those, they're a little bit bigger, so they're a little bit better for meat production. I'm probably going to pick one of those 2 breeds and carry some of those over the winter too, and start breeding those as well on a regular basis. You thinking about getting geese?
Well, we rescued a trio of geese, and we knew absolutely nothing about geese when we got this trio, and it was 2 males and a male, and it was the African something.
Oh,
goose,
yeah.
And they end up mating for life. And so the 2 boys fought, and the other one ran off. I don't know where he went. And then shortly after that, I'm assuming it was either a feral dog or the fox that I call him the game camel got the male. And so she's been just running around here. Now, she likes to play hide and go seek with her nest because she still lays eggs. But they're huge. They're huge eggs. Like one of those eggs is good enough for me for my breakfast. But you got to find them. Now, Apollo is really good at finding them. But I always keep telling Robin, I want to, she's going to be our Christmas goose. She's going to be our Christmas goose. And of course, you know how Robin is about the birds. And so I think she's beyond the years where now if we were to take her out and process her, I think she would be tough. But I don't know. I don't know which geese are good for meat and which ones are not. But I would like we love Canadian geese. We go Canadian geese hunting every season. And so we've eaten goose meat, geese meat, whatever you want to call it. But
but Canada geese are such a different. So like an African goose you can definitely eat that. And I mean, depending on how you cook it, it can still be fine. What I'm a big fan of is I think geese are probably the best bird for the homestead. I think they're up there with chickens, just in terms of how they are efficient, how they are relatively easy to take care of. And then, you get a pretty big, hefty bird out of it, too, if you're raising them for meat. But yeah, with that, even if it's an older bird, you can still process it. And if you do a combination of slow cook it and then throw it under the broiler to crisp it up at the end, that actually works pretty good. And it breaks down, and texture of the meat's actually pretty darn good when you do it that way.
Okay, gentlemen, we got another caller here. Let me see who it is. This is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
This is Misty with Mama Z's Texas Kitchen.
Well, hello. How you doing, Misty?
Hey,
Hi.
Misty.
Hello. I just wanted to call and tell you, Morgan, how much I appreciate you. Because as I have been coming up, over the last 8 months, it didn't matter what chat we were in. If there was 1,000 people in Roots and Refuge or this chat, you always took the time to encourage me and say hello to me. Or if we were in the, the homesteaders group or whatever. And I just wanted you to know how much that's meant to me because, when you're a little channel, and when it's hard. It's, getting from 0 to 1,000, it takes a lot of work. And for you to take the time just to, to encourage us guys, it means a lot. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you, Misty. I really appreciate you saying that. I think, yeah, you're 100%. It's tough. And oftentimes, and I think people don't realize this, when you have a channel that's 500 people, you're oftentimes doing as much, if not more work than a channel that has, 50,000 people. And so, yeah, no, I'm really appreciate you saying that. And by the way, congratulations you just hit 1,000, right? Like this week.
Yes.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
I never in a million years would think in 8 months that I could have hit 1,000 and got monetized. I got my letter today that said I qualified for the partnership program. So that was
All right.
Yep.
That money's going to be rolling in now.
Yeah, right. But it means a lot, and for the fact that my name, my name is Misty and not Mama Z, that means something, and I really appreciate that fact, and I encourage anybody, and I always want, no matter how big I get, I want to be that person as well. When I go into a chat or whatever, I want to be that person. So I think you're a great role model to always remember that we were all, 500 at one time, or we were all 100. And I remember watching Daryl's live stream at the Stivers event and talking to Single Dad Homestead and Nathan when I had 50 subs. And thinking, I'm never going to be anywhere, and people talking to me. So, and that was just in November. So, I just want to encourage everybody. It takes work, it takes consistency, and it's just 1,000. But it just takes work and it takes consistency. And I think you would even say that, Morgan, it takes consistency. That's the number one.
Consistency is arguably the biggest attribute you need to actually try to get your channel going. Like, if you keep dipping your toe in and out and, do a video here and then 6 weeks later do another video, like it's never going to get where you want it to go unless you just really put in the work and just keep doing it over and over again. And I think the other thing is you're going to find your content gets better. Like, Misty, I bet your video from 6 months ago is just not as good as your videos are today. I mean, I know that's the case for me. Like, it's just the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Absolutely. And your thumbnails and titles. Those two things right there. I mean, Daryl can tell you my thumbnails that I was doing 6 months ago for my thumbnails today. If I can encourage anybody, thumbnails, titles, and consistency. Those three things right there is what, be a student of the game, learn from the people that are doing it the best, and just be a student of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And hey, Sherry, so because this was a short notice appearance, I didn't get a chance to prepare this, but I actually had an idea of a game I wanted to play with you guys sometime when I came on, and that was to play rejected thumbnails. So oh, sorry. So when I do thumbnails for my videos, I will do oftentimes 2 or 3 different thumbnails and see which one I like better. I'll send them to some friends and say, hey, what do you think works best? And like, I'm very obsessive when it comes to creating my thumbnails. And so that means I have like probably 50 unused thumbnails right now that I think are kind of funny and goofy and worth sharing. And so I meant to like try to pull some together. I just didn't have time to do it today. But yeah, Misty, you're totally right. Thumbnails and titles, it's so important.
Well, if you've got a lot of rejected thumbnails, we'll have to. I'm going to encourage your presence on a Tuesday night. And,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. That sounds like a Tuesday night show all by itself.
Sure does.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. We'll follow up with an email. We'll find a date and do that because it would be fun because you can and I can actually give you the reasons why I rejected thumbnails just because. You can see some of them are very worthy of rejection. I like to take
Morgan, I'd love to see your rejects, my friend. That's absolutely true. But anyway, I'm going to get off here. I just wanted to stop and say, thank you and thanks for being such a great role model to all of us. So I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thanks, Misty. Have a great night and congratulations again on monetization too.
Thank you so much. All right.
All right. Thanks for calling. Okay. And for everybody out there in the chat, also want you to be aware that Morgan also has a podcast.
Yeah.
Now, are you still as regular on that as what you were? I have to admit, I don't have enough time to keep up with everybody. Your mic is off.
Sorry, I hit mute to cough, and there you go. Yeah, I'm doing like about 1 or 2 episodes a month now. I've been just so busy with a lot of other stuff here on the farm that it's tough to put in the time to do that. But yes, there's actually a new episode. It should be coming out this week, featuring a friend of mine by the name of Ben, who has a insanely popular TikTok presence as well as a YouTube channel, and he basically rescues various birds and other animals, and he's a madman, but he's a genius, and so it's a fun conversation I have with him that should be coming out on Wednesday.
Okay, great. So,
available on you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, the Google Play Store, like all the major podcast places. You should be able to find it. It's just the Goldshaw Farm podcast.
Okay. So everybody check that out. Okay. Jason, I think you were starting to say something.
Yeah, my battery's getting low on the phone, and I'm getting the evil eye from Robin because it's bedtime. So I'm going to have to break out here.
Oh, yeah, she has a gun. She knows how to use it. You better go, Jason.
Well, thanks for calling, Jason. Definitely miss you guys. Yeah, I had like all these big plans to do a couple road trips, including one down south this summer, and none of that's going to materialize. But definitely miss you guys.
Yeah, well, we miss you too, and the gate's always open for you, brother. You know that.
Absolutely.
Just let us know. All right, y'all have a good night.
Okay,
take care, Jason.
Night.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, quite the evening here.
So you guys are big like RVer road trippers. What's your summer looking like now?
Well, we've not been able to go anywhere, and which maybe sort of worked out a little bit. Was it the last trip last year?
Mm-hmm.
On the last trip that we were making last year, we
coming
were
home from Stivers.
Coming home from the Stivers meetup.
Yeah.
We stopped at a Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. Yeah.
Stopped at a Cracker Barrel because that's a good place to park with an RV. They generally have slots here for them. And we went in and ate and came back out, and there was a guy kind of standing around next to our camper there and stuff, and it turned out that he also had a camper there, and when he was pulling out, he didn't make the turn correctly. It caught the back end of our camper. So it kind of opened up the back of it like a
Sardine can.
like a sardine can.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So it required some work, and so we took it into the dealership up here, and they fixed it. And it's been there all year. I mean,
all winter.
All winter, yeah. But pretty much all year this year. We just went and got it here last week. Last week, and of course now I got more to do to it. Find out that we got some wiring that burned up in it and what have you. But no, we haven't gone anywhere. Obviously, we couldn't go anywhere, and we are looking forward to, at this point, going to Life Conference.
Life Conference.
That's Doug and Stacy did that, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Doug and Stacy has one. It's August 2nd and 3rd. Then the middle of August, Kiss My Grass Acres is having something at her house. In September is Heartland Homesteaders Picnic in Kentucky. And then HOA in October. So far, that's all that I know of.
So if
that's still a go.
Yeah. So if we can make those, I guess we will. And we really enjoy that. We really enjoy getting out and meeting you folks in person, in 3D, as some say.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity that provided that the people holding the event and internet is available.
Yeah.
The opportunity to live stream that, so those of you that want to be there through your computers have that opportunity to do that. But no, I was certainly hoping that you were going to be at the HOA this year, because I was going to make a suggestion to increase to up the ante a little bit on not having just tomatoes to taste test.
that was so much fun to make last year. the great tomato test off, where Kaylee from the Homestead actually brought some tomatoes to the event, and then I went with Blake Kirby and Jen from the Sunshine Farm to the local Walmart and bought tomatoes, and we sort of lined them up on the table and got people to test and see if they could prove the axiom of Jess over at Roots and Refuge that the store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. And for the most part, everybody got it right. It turned out pretty well. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I've actually been thinking about, if I do end up at HOA, what will we do to top that? Because you can't not try to top it. And so I got a couple ideas in the works. We'll see how it goes.
Well, the one thing that I would like to see, certainly, I'm getting...
The Naked Gardener, what type of duck, goose are good for a beginner?
So if I was going to go with geese, I would say either an Emden or Pilgrim goose is probably your best bet. I have seen from friends that like Chinese and African can actually be a little bit aggressive. Certain interesting varieties like a Sebastable have a lot of quirkier health issues that you have to deal with. Emdens and Pilgrims are, darn near bulletproof, very easy to maintain, good temperaments. So that would be the way I would go if I was starting with geese. As far as ducks go, it really depends on what you want the ducks for. I like the khaki Campbells because they are outstanding egg layers, but they are a little bit flighty and harder to work with. So they're going to run around, and while that's good because they're good foragers, they're, I don't know, just skittish. And so if you want a duck that you can socialize with and that's super friendly, I think a Pekin duck works better, or Cayuga duck works pretty good for that too. But if you want it for just pure egg layer, I would go khaki Campbell.
Okay. And getting back to the food thing. If you do that again, we've got to do that on the live stream.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, but I'm not 100% sure I'm going to do food or what, because I feel like it needs to be something interesting and some sort of contest of some sort. but I'm not 100% sure exactly what it would be. So I've got a couple ideas that I'm going to keep under wraps for right now. But if I'm there,
right
there will be something we do.
Okay,
That-
you
that's
keep us in
scary
mind,
right
though.
there.
You keep us in mind, because we for sure want to. I mean, it was a lot of fun last year. I just wish that the folks that were watching it through their computer screens could have seen it instead of catching it later. But
Yeah. No. I'll if I do something, I will let you guys know, and we can figure out a way you can stream it.
sounds great. So, I don't know if you've ever been to Doug and Stacy's or had any thoughts about going out that far.
So I haven't. So the only homesteading event I have ever been to was actually when I went to HOA last fall. It's always just tough to leave the farm here,
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
particularly like midsummer, like August. That's like when I'm trying to get everything done. We have such a short window here in Vermont, right? Because we have winter from say mid to late October all the way through to mid to late April, and so because of that, everything that you try to do on the farm in terms of raising animals, building infrastructure, making hay, like all that stuff all happens throughout the summer. And so like right now it's just sort of a crazy time with the farm, and so it always makes it tough to like get out. But I don't know, at some point I do want to go out. Doug and Stacey are such good, nice people. Like I'd love to go down there and just hang out. So we'll see.
And I do want to let you know that I think your carpentry skills are improving.
Slowly but surely. I mean, yeah, like I would struggle to build IKEA furniture a couple of years ago, and yeah, I've gotten better. I feel like the brooder shed that we just built this past spring has gotten better. I just completed a monster chicken tractor that is working out pretty well so far. It's like a 12 by 12 chicken tractor, so it houses like I put in 38 birds, 38 geese in there tonight, and they have plenty of space, and so yeah, there's been a lot of projects in building, and I've actually just found I like building stuff at this point too. So thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, yeah, I would have absolutely no problem going into one of your structures now. It was a little dicey at first.
Oh, that first duck house I built, where I took like a 3-sided hay shed and turned it into a actual duck house, and that was a disaster. Like it's still the shed that my dog lives in, but like yeah, it's not all that stable. I'll probably end up tearing that one down in a year or so, because I think in that spot we're going to end up putting a greenhouse in the not too distant future.
So yeah, that's something else I wanted to kind of chat with you here about a little bit is your dog. Because I know you had some hesitancy in getting the dog, and yet you really kind of wanted to get the dog, and it looks like you guys bonded pretty well. How's the dog actually working out for you?
Oh, best decision I could have made. He is so for those who don't know, we got a Maremma. It's an Italian breed of dog. It's a livestock guardian dog. It looks kind of like a smaller Great Pyrenees.
Yes, it does.
And we got them. So the father of our dog is my friend's dog. So he's a farm probably about half an hour from here. And the breeder that he worked with, where his dog goes out to stud, is over in Maine. And we got to know the breeders really well, really great people. They have their own duck and sheep farm. And so we arranged to get a puppy. We got the puppy back in November, and he has just been the best dog. Toby, if you guys watch our channel, you're probably very familiar with him. Just an adorable dog. Just a big, fluffy, goofy dog. He has got the best personality on a dog I think I've ever seen. He's just laid back, easygoing. He knows he has a job, and he'll snap to do his job. But he's not mean dog. He has no issues with working with the birds. He's never really had chasing issues for the most part, and he's just been awesome. And yeah, he's become my constant companion around the farm too, which is I think just another key thing where it's like it's kind of fun to have somebody like I love the barn cats, but cats are cats. They're a lot less likely to just like follow you around and hang out with you and go play tug of war. But Toby, no, he's awesome. He couldn't have asked for a better dog.
Naked Gardeners wants to know what got you into duck farming.
So it was actually two things. So number one, because we have the permaculture orchard, I had this vision of using the ducks as part of the pest control strategy for the orchard. And so I do occasionally run the ducks through the actual alleyways of the orchard and have them go through and do just a pest clean out here and there. And so that was like one of the reasons. But what I also realized is around here, when I was thinking about what farm businesses to start, everybody does chicken eggs. Everybody has a backyard flock around here. And what I did find, though, is that ducks were relatively rare. And so nobody had duck eggs available for sale. And so while I could only get, like, say, $3 for a dozen chicken eggs, I can easily get $6 or $7 for a dozen duck eggs. Or, actually at our farmer's market right now, we sell half a dozen for $4 a carton. And, that higher price makes it more profitable and it makes more sense to raise versus chickens. And so the fact that, we could stand out in the marketplace and have sort of a more profitable venture was the other piece. And then I feel like along the way, I've discovered how just, adorable and fun they are as far as animals to work with, and just kind of goofy and entertaining in their own right. And so that combination of things has what's kept us in the game with ducks.
Okay, and I feel like I need to acknowledge here Barry Jackson from Australia has mentioned a couple times that he just loves your vids. So
thanks, Barry. Hold on, let me scroll through the chat here.
Barry Jackson.
Hey, Barry Jackson, I appreciate you watching from Australia because, was it 10 a.m. there at this point? I don't know.
I'm not sure what the time is there, but.
Lazy Bunny Homestead, what are a few tips for keeping things clean after ducks? I've heard they are very messy, but I love ducks. I just want to try to keep things clean.
Ducks are messy. That is 100% true. That is not a myth. When you're brooding ducklings, the biggest advice I would have for keeping things clean is manage your moisture. And so never give them a big open dish because they will jump in it and splash in it and get all in your wood shavings and just make a mess of your bedding. What I typically like to do is I will build a small platform out of 2x4s and hardware cloth that raises it up off the ground. And then I'll put like a tray underneath that to catch the water. And then I put their waterers on top of that platform. That helps keep the bedding drier and it makes it much easier to clean. The other thing I'll do is, particularly for the first 2 weeks of like a duckling's life, rather than give them water dishes or like the gravity water feeder type things, I will usually get like a feeding tray, like a chick feeding tray, especially the long red plastic ones. And I will fill those with water instead. And so really they can only dip their bill and their face in. They can't really make a mess with it. And that helps contain so much of the mess. And so that makes a big difference for when you're brooding. When they get older, really the thing I would do is manage the moisture inside the duck house. You don't necessarily need to give them water overnight. And so if you have a small coop that doesn't have drainage of some sort, I would probably just actually hold off on giving them water overnight and only give them water during the day and make sure they have access to plenty of water then. The other thing you can do, and we did this with our duck house when we built it, we built our duck house and it's up about 20 inches off the ground. And within that, I took a section of the floor and I put hardware cloth right over it. And so rather than having flooring on there, there's a portion of the duck house that's just got an exposed floor that's a mesh that goes outside. And so I put their waterers on top of that. So there's like a couple water dishes there. And so any mess that they make will drain right out and it never gets their straw any really wet. And that keeps things way cleaner. I mean, you're still going to have wet, gross duck poop in your coop. That happens. Just keep using fresh bedding and clean it out every month or two. But those would be the major tips I would have. And it really fundamentally always comes down to managing your water and preventing water from getting into places, because that's where the smell comes from. That's where most of the mess comes from. And just know that ducks are going to be messy. They're going to always make their water look like chocolate milk. That's just what they do. Accept it and just, clean their water every 12 hours and you'll be fine.
On the, with the ducks, is the duck poop hot or cold, or as far as using it for fertilizer?
Yeah, so duck poop is like I'll call it lukewarm. It's not like chicken poop, so it's not as hot as chicken poop, and you don't need to age it nearly as much. But I wouldn't encourage somebody to take fresh duck bedding and put it right on the garden. What we usually will do is empty it out of the coop, let it sit in a pile for a month or two, and then it's available for use. So we don't compost it all the way down. I don't think you need to do that. But we also don't put it directly on there. But also, though, what we will do is run our ducks through the garden every so often, and they'll poop there, and that's fine. But it's all about managing how concentrated it is, too. I think, this past, I guess it was back in February. Again, feels like ages ago. My wife and I went on a trip to Spain. And while we were there, I spent a lot of time visiting different farms out there. And one of the biggest habits that I noticed with how they manage their animals, whether it was geese or pigs or even cattle to a certain extent, is that they're constantly moving their animals. They rarely let their animals sit in one spot for too long. Like, I would find guys who are like pig herders, and they would take their pigs and run them through these orchards filled with these ancient oak trees that are dropping acorns. And they wouldn't let them sit there too long. They would let them go into one place for like 20 minutes, and then they'd move them on to the next place, and they'd keep them moving. And by doing that, some of the guys explained to me, they're letting them both get the food that's there, but not overwork the land. And they're also lightly fertilizing it and keeping it moving. I think sometimes we can fall into that trap of keeping animals in one place and for too long, and because it's convenient and it's easier. But to be more flexible and mobile and keep them moving, you're going to do better for your animals, and you're going to also arguably do better for the land. And so it's just one of those distinctions that I feel like I've come to as a revelation in the last few months. And as I'm thinking about our farm and what we're trying to do with designing sort of long-term plans, keeping the animals moving and not letting them sit in one spot for too long is a big part of the plan.
Do the ducks go after like vegetables and stuff, or is that something?
Yeah, so if you think about running ducks through your garden, the biggest consideration, it gets back to what I was just saying of keeping them moving, because they have a hierarchy for what they like. Their favorite food, the thing that they will gravitate first and foremost, are snails and slugs. And what gardener wouldn't want an animal running through their garden every morning and taking out all the snails and slugs? Then things like crickets and grubs and worms, they'll also go crazy for too. And so if you're putting your ducks in and you're running them through the garden for about 15, 20 minutes, they're really not going to do that much damage to your plants. But if you lock your ducks in a garden bed for a full day or 2 or 3 days, they're going to do damage. They're going to start eating the plants. They're going to start eating all sorts of stuff. And so as long as you're keeping them moving, you're not going to have that risk. But if you let them spend too much time there, you can have issues.
Okay. Just trying to go through the chat here. I'll just remind everybody the phone line is open. If you'd like to call in, we're not going to keep Morgan too awful late here.
Did I see Carrie? Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, so Carrie is here, by the way. So Carrie from Built on the Rock Homestead, who I know you guys are very familiar with. She's actually somebody who also participated in our hatching project this year. So I sent Carrie a box of fertilized goose eggs, and she put them under one of her broody geese, and I think she hatched out like 4 of them or 5 of them, if I'm not mistaken, which was pretty impressive. But she definitely had. I know she hatched more naturally than I ended up hatching naturally here on our farm.
Okay, 5 ducks in a kiddie pool is asking. I have full-grown ducks. Shall I use straw or wood shavings?
I keep going back and forth on which I prefer. I generally have found that the wood shavings do a better job absorbing and capturing the poop. But what I don't like is they don't compost nearly as quickly. I like the straw because it composts quick. So if I was force ranking them, I think I would go straw as my favorite, but wood chips as a second, and then third and definitely further down the list is hay. The only challenge is, especially around here, hay is relatively cheap. I can get old bales of hay, especially stuff that's like, sat a year or two that people are just trying to move for like $1 or $2 a bale. And so that cheap hay becomes really nice bedding versus like a bale of straw around here costs like, I don't know, $8 or $9 because we don't really grow the necessary plants to create that straw. It's coming from like the Midwest. And so it's hard, but everybody hays around here. And so hay is by turn relatively cheap. So sometimes I will use hay, but hay is the worst because it absorbs the least.
What ratio do you recommend for a hen to drake ratio?
We usually try to keep about 5 or 6 hens for every drake. If you have more drakes than that, or your ratio is lower than that in terms of the number of hens, you're going to find that the girls get beat up more from all the mating activity. But if you're at like 6, that's pretty good. And so that both ensures that you're going to have really good egg fertility, but also limited stress on your overall flock.
Did you ever dream 5 years ago you would be the go-to duck person?
Never in my wildest. I'm still shocked by it, and it's funny because I get a lot of duck and goose questions via email and YouTube comments and Instagram, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't know, but it's funny. I think it does underline that there is a need for more content and education around ducks and geese for people because, there's like 1 or 2 good books, but not a ton. And so it does have me thinking about like, trying to put some more content out there just for the education because so many people have that question about how to raise them.
Big Dream Homestead, we have 1 drake and 3 hens. Should we get more hens?
If you have the space and if you have the ability and willingness, I would say possibly. I mean, you also have to look at your flock and how's it doing. Like if you have that 1 drake and 3 hens and the 3 hens are not looking all beat up and, you're not having problems with the flock, that you might be fine. But adding another hen or 2 might just be enough of a defrayer in terms of keeping your flock healthy. So it kind of depends on what you're seeing. If you're not seeing problems, you don't have to rush right out and do it, would be what I'd say, when that would be how I'd handle it. I use that planning assumption. So like, for example, I just hatched out a dozen ducklings, this past weekend. And, if I'm going to guess, it's going to be something like a 50-50 ratio. Obviously, it could be slightly one way or the other. That means that a few of those I will cull so that I can ensure that the, half, so it would be the 6 females, have 1 drake to accompany them into integrating into the rest of the quacken. And so that would mean I'm going to end up harvesting a handful of drakes from the hatching I just did. And that's important to know too, right? Because
absolutely,
to know why you're raising an animal is important to have that context so that you can be ready for it when it comes time for harvest. That's always a tough decision and a tough activity on the farm. And so I think to kind of go into it with the right mindset is important.
Okay, and we're getting some technical questions here. So, have you ever had a
Go for it? Let's do the technical section. I'm ready here.
Have you ever had a duck with a niacin deficiency?
I have never personally had a duck with a niacin deficiency. I have since day one, and I think I got this advice from Jack Spirko. I have always used brewer's yeast mixed with chick grower. So, usually the brewer's yeast comes with these scoopers. I think it's probably I think they're like 3 tablespoon scoopers, and so it's like for every pound of standard chick grower 20% grower feed, I will throw in 6 tablespoons of the brewer's yeast into the mix, especially for the first 4 weeks. As well as the fact that by week 4, I'm usually introducing the ducks and geese to plants in pasture. And from a lot of those plants in pasture, particularly things like dandelion greens, they're getting plenty of niacin as well. And so I have actually never really had an issue with it. But it comes down to using that brewer's yeast. It's really important.
And what is the time schedule from ducklings to adults to get eggs?
It depends a little bit on your breed. So, Khaki Campbells, which is like the main variety we have here on our farm, they take about, it's about 4 to 5 months, 5 months-ish before you're going to start to get eggs. Sometimes it's a little dependent on the weather too. So if you hatch out ducks, say in August, you might not get eggs until April. Just by virtue of the fact that, in those darker, colder months, they sort of shut things down. Yeah, 5 months could be your planning assumption.
Holly Wallace wants to know, how long did it take you to train your ducks to go to bed?
The first go of it, it was probably about 2 weeks of really good consistency and doing everything exactly the same at the exact same time over and over and over again before I got them to go. To get them to the point where I just have to yell out to the pasture and 10, 15 minutes later, they're back at the duck house. That probably took a couple of months just repetition and doing it over and over again. I recently introduced about 4 geese into the flock with the ducks, and those geese still struggle with it. They, usually when I introduce ducks with the rest of the flock, they pick up on it really quickly, and I don't even have to have a training time. They just follow all the other ducks. The geese kind of do their own thing, and so I'm still having to chase the geese in. But they seem like they're starting to get it, and they've been out there for about a month with the ducks, so we'll see. But it takes a little time. It's just about the consistency.
What's the easy way for duckling gender? So I'm going to say sexing the ducks.
Yeah. So, you know what? I personally still screw it up. Like this batch that I just hatched this past weekend. I tried to do the vent sexing, and so the vent sexing is where in the first 2 or 3 days you can only do this because once they start to develop feathers, you're not going to be able to see it. You flip them over, you squeeze them a little bit on the vent, and that pressure on the vent will make the penis pop out if it's a male. But it's really hard to see, and it's really, really small. And so I've been trying to do that, but I don't think I'm doing it accurately. Really what I typically will do is I will look for coloring, quacking, and tail feathers. And usually that happens right around week 5-ish or so, 5 or 6. You're going to really start to see all those gender characteristics pop up within the duckling. And so that's typically when I'm trying to make my calls on who's a drake and who's a hen.
Okay. And just share with the folks here a little bit about how you let your ducks out into the tall grass. Are they fenced in? Are they not fenced in? Is it, do you trade pastures around like they do with cows and cattle and so forth, or?
Yeah. So the way I do it these days is, I will use like the Premier One electrical netting, and I will set up a pasture paddock. Usually it's about 1 acre in size, and I will keep it like that for about 2 weeks, where I will run both the ducks and geese together in the same paddock, and my chickens actually now. And I'll run them out there. They'll be in tall grass because it starts all tall. I haven't mowed it or anything, and then eventually the geese are knocking it down, and then the ducks are running around in it, and by the end of it, it's pretty scraggly and looks pretty much cleared out. And so that's typically what I'm doing. The Premier One fencing is less about predators, keeping predators out, but more keeping the ducks and geese from roaming and disappearing off to some other place. And then and it's not that I wouldn't be able to find them, it's just that I'd have to hunt for them at the end of the day, and it just makes more work for me. The security measure comes in the form of Toby, the livestock guardian dog. So Toby spends his entire time out there in the pasture with the ducks and geese. He will hang out with them. It's funny at this point, especially the teenage goslings we have like this flock of about 40 teenage goslings. They all like to hang out with Toby, and so I'll come out in the middle of the day and I'll find them in a shady spot, and it's like 40 goslings sleeping around a sleeping dog, and it's pretty ridiculous to see. But Toby, in his presence, keeps all of our predators away. You know, he creates that bubble, and then at night, Toby's free in that same paddock, running around, barking off the coyotes, keeping raccoons and other things away as well. But I'll lock the birds up in chicken tractors.
And so those are out in the pasture as well. The tractors are.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, like if somebody goes to like you know, my last couple of videos, you can see like really clear examples of what that setup looks like, and how I'm doing it. But I will rotate those setups every couple of weeks so that there's fresh pasture, fresh grass for everybody, gives the pasture a chance to rest. And so I almost have, I think, 5 configurations I've figured out within our lower pasture right now that I put the ducks and geese through. And so over the span of like 2 months, or over the span of the summer, I should say, I'll go through it like 2 times.
Well, I'm going to say in your earlier days, you did an insane amount of carrying water. Do you still do that?
No. So one of the biggest revelations we've had here, I should say revelations, evolutions, is that we actually put in water and electrical lines out to the duck house as of about a month ago. And so I still like fill up a bucket and carry it like 20 feet, but like that's no big deal compared to what I used to do. And so that has made life a lot easier. I'm also now able to run hoses out to like the duck yard, like where they are now. And so in the mornings I'll fill up their water pools, and it's a lot less work. And it's been cool. And really, I will say too, this is where the partnership between the farm and YouTube comes in handy. So the revenue I've earned from like AdSense dollars from YouTube, I sink back into the farm. And so doing things like building new duck houses and putting in water lines and electrical gets paid for by the YouTube audience, essentially, which I think is kind of a cool thing.
Absolutely. You didn't talk a whole lot about it, but and I don't know what's happened this year with all the COVID stuff and what have you. But farmers markets, I know that you were participating in that, at least was with duck eggs. Are you furthering that with vegetables out of the garden and other things? And is this an ongoing thing at this point in time in your state, or?
So we're participating in farmers markets to sell eggs, and later this year we'll participate to sell meat as well. You know, it's one of those things in terms of doing other stuff like, you know, vegetables from the garden. We don't garden at a scale that I think could really support that. You know, we garden, and I actually just put out a garden tour video with Allison showing everybody our garden this year. You know, like it's at a scale for us and to feed us. It works good, but we're not doing it at such a scale where it's like, you know, we'd have all this extra stuff other than maybe zucchini that we can sell to people. And so
zucchini grows wild.
Oh golly, we have so much, you know, by the end of summer, like the ducks are turning their nose up at zucchini. They have no interest in it. But yeah, so I don't think we do enough. So I don't do that. I mean, really, what I've found has worked from a business standpoint is it's selling the meat birds by reservation, and I do that through our website, and you know I'll do some emails out to people to market it, and then you know we'll sell the eggs through farmers markets, and that's about it. It's just because sometimes going to too many farmers markets too, it like becomes a big time suck. You know, you think about it, right? It's probably 3 hours at the market, probably another hour or 2 to load up and set up, another hour to break down and come back. And so that's a lot of time that I just frankly don't have. And so finding other means of distribution is a big part of what we're trying to do longer term with the farm. The biggest thing I'm trying to figure out now is, can I actually turn our ducks and geese into products I can sell online? And if I feel like I can get that down, I feel like I'll really have a good long-term sustainable recipe for the business.
Is there some sort of licensing involved for processing the ducks to be able to sell them?
Yeah, that's one of the complexities and one of the hardest things. And so we process here on the farm ourselves because we can't find processors willing right now to do ducks or geese because they're so hard to pluck. And so trying to find like a USDA inspected facility is hard in that regard. But I'm working on solving that. And then the other thing is I'm experimenting with things. Like right now, down in our basement, I have duck and goose prosciutto curing. And so I've been working on trying to do like waterfowl charcuterie, because I feel like if I can do that, that becomes something that's easier to ship than like a frozen goose. And so that's definitely something I'm experimenting with right now.
Okay, good. Somebody must have said something.
Oh, nothing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm missing it. I feel like I missed the joke. What was it, Sherry?
Nothing.
That's the worst answer. Come on.
Oh, it happened a long time ago.
I just know the eyes are watering over here.
It's all Bitty Boo's fault.
Oh, my. So.
Chickenrental.net. I like that, Farmer Brad.
Yeah, Farmer Brad makes those chicken waters, so there's probably...
you know what? I actually just started. I meant to include this in my next chicken video. Farmer Brad was very generous and gave me one of his awesome waterers when we were down at HOA, and I'm just starting to use it now with my chickens, and they are loving it. So, yeah, if people are looking for good waterers, talk to Farmer Brad.
Can you pair your goose with something from the 12 Days of Christmas?
I feel like I have become an expert in how to cook a good goose. I will say, if anybody wants the secret, here it goes. I find that if you first off spatchcock your goose. So if you guys don't know it, spatchcocking is when you take like poultry shears and you split the bird down the middle and then you like flatten it out. Like people often will spatchcock chickens. I've actually found you can do that with geese too, and it works great. And what's nice about that is it means everything will cook much more evenly. And so I will do that, and then I will cook really low, like 275 for a couple of hours, and then, nice and slow. And then in the last 15-20 minutes, turn on the broiler and crisp up the skin. And once you do that, like it's spot on, and that will go with pretty much any dish you could create, So, yeah, I can't say enough good things about cooked goose. You can do duck pretty much the same way as well.
TG Vlogs, yes, Farmer Brad, who is in the chat, makes chicken waters, and he has a number of well-known channels that use them. So, matter of fact, we have a link, do we not?
Yes, I just posted it. It's
Okay.
in our description. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a link to his waters where you can actually get it for a little bit better price. So, all right. Somebody did ask something here earlier. And I know I missed it.
Sydney, if you can do your own Homestead conference, what would you have at the conference?
I could do my own. You know what I would have, and I'm not even sure you could really do this, but I would have a big bonfire. So my favorite part about going to Homestead conferences isn't so much about the workshops and the vendors, and that stuff's cool, and I like it. It's good. It isn't about that. It's actually being able to see and hang out with people and really spend the time and talk. And especially for like a lot of people who I either watch their videos or we, message on Facebook or Instagram or other places and like have become my friends, but I don't see them face to face very often, if at all, to like have the time to hang out together. That's like my favorite part about going to those conferences. Like, I got to meet you guys for the first time, for example, back in October. And so if I could have like my own conference, like having like a Saturday night bonfire where everybody just goes and hangs out and has a good time, that to me would probably be the coolest thing to do there.
Yeah, more of a just, and I think that's why I really liked that Heartland Homesteaders picnic, because there was no big deal there. It was just come and hang out, and a lot of food. There was a lot of food there.
Oh,
Good
yeah,
heavens.
a lot of good food.
Yeah. But,
yeah, this year there's going to be a venison cook-off.
Okay, a venison cook-off at
yeah. Brenda's going to be doing it, and Higgs Farm thinks he's going to win.
Well, I would almost guess that Nathan will be involved in that as well.
Nathan, I think, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people I'm kind of surprised that are not in here tonight, but I don't know what it takes. We don't have the storytelling capabilities that Morgan does.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Let's see.
I'm not seeing any other questions, and I know that we've had you here for an hour and a half, and certainly do appreciate it.
Hey, anytime. I always love hanging out with you guys, and yeah, we should definitely set up a Tech Tuesday where we can talk about rejected thumbnails.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like something to discuss. So, anybody else got anything they want to know, or just think you want to know? Duck wise, chicken wise, garden wise,
tree wise, YouTube wise. I mean,
Jared Gaming is asking, are you going to get more geese?
So this is it for the geese this year. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't know or realize is when it comes to geese, you really have a tight window in season. So, our geese were laying eggs from, I would say, early March to, I don't know, early May. And then after that, they're done. They shut down the factory. And so it's like that, too, pretty much with all geese. And so if you try to buy geese right now, you're not going to find any really for 2020. What you're going to have to do is wait until they start laying again in 2021. And so we are at our peak number of geese at this point. We'll cull down for the winter, and then we'll start hatching again next spring. And yeah, I'll probably hope to actually probably have 100 geese on the farm next year, and just keep building up our numbers. Geese have a season, and that's why I spent so much time this spring focused on hatching just geese. And then I didn't really bring on the ducks until now, and now I'm really focused on hatching ducks because ducks will lay for a much longer period of time.
Okay, and to me, this is a really good question. Are there any other animals? I mean, you have ducks and you have some chickens, but is there any other animals, livestock, that you considering getting? Cows, pigs, goats, and what have you?
Yeah, so, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, and it might happen next year, but it'll definitely happen probably within 2 years. We want to get cattle and focus on beef cattle really specifically, and so, we have a ton of pasture here. This is a perfect climate for beef cattle. Particularly a breed like, say, the Scottish Highlands. That's something that we're really considering. And so, we're working on setting up some things from an infrastructure standpoint. And my hope would really be by, late 2021, early 2022, we actually have a herd of beef cattle here on the farm.
Well, that probably answers another question that I had. Did you ever say, what on earth did I ever buy 165 acres for?
Oh, no. Look, man, this was all part of a long-term plan. I'm somebody who, I will get a vision, and it drives my wife crazy because she's a very practical person, but I will get this, grand scheme of things. Even if it's going to be 5 to 10 years out, I will set myself up to be on that trajectory for the long haul. That's just the type of person I am. And so when we were looking for properties, I wanted this much space just because I ultimately wanted cattle. And so, yeah, this is all part of the long-term plan.
Naked Gardeners, I believe it's 165 acres, isn't that correct?
Yeah, actually just a little shy. It's 162 if I'm being accurate. So, yeah.
Okay. 160 plus.
Yes.
Is there a video of Toby moving eggs?
Well, all right. I'm going to tell just the two-family homestead audience this for right now. I actually have some video of Toby moving eggs. Finally, I just got it while I was doing my evening chores right before I came in to talk to you guys. there was an egg that I left on the pasture, and I set the camera up and I went away to go do some other stuff. And wouldn't you know it, he picked it up and he moved it. And then as soon as I walked up to him and I put my hand out, he went up to me and dropped the egg right in my hand. And so, for people who watch my channel, I've been dealing with this mystery of an Easter bunny who keeps finding all the duck eggs that they leave in the grass and then leaving them in a very obvious place right in the middle of the pasture. And yes, it is Toby who's been doing that. And it's amazing too, right? Because I will often feed him duck eggs and he will devour them. But he has, whatever it is, he's been so gentle that he does not bite down on the egg and eat it. He only just carries it in his mouth and will deposit it into a spot that he feels like is an appropriate spot to leave it. And so Toby is the mystery egg mover.
Well, that's pretty incredible.
It is, and so I'll be mentioning it in an upcoming video. But I've actually been spending weeks trying to set up game cameras and other things as a way to catch him in the act, and I've never been able to do it. But I finally got the footage tonight. So yeah.
You also have had some problems with animals in the past. Some minks or something, and maybe skunks. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Oh no. So our property, right? So we're, like I said, 160-ish acres, and about 50 of it is pasture, and then there's about 110 acres of forest. But our 110 acres of forest butts up to probably about another, 1,000 acres of forest. And then there's several other large tracts of pasture that surround that forest. And so that type of environment is the perfect environment for all sorts of animals, which is good because you got this great biodiversity. But yes, we've had problems with mink where they've attacked and killed ducks. We've had many raccoons around, skunks, fishers. We've had really problems with bobcats getting aggressive. Coyotes are out here on a nightly basis, going crazy. And so black bear, we've got a lot of black bear. So yeah, we've got our whole host of wildlife around the farm. And so that's where the biggest difference I've noticed this year versus say last year is those animals are keeping further away from our farm because we have Toby there, and his presence as sort of the apex predator keeps everybody else away, and it creates this security bubble that is helping me build other things out on the farm. And so longer term, actually, one of the other big projects I have going this year is we're going to be fencing in about an 8-acre area of pasture with a 5-foot high welded wire fence. And I'm going to be putting some electric strands on top of that. But then next summer, my plan is I'm actually not going to house any of our birds in chicken tractors. I'm just going to have a couple of shelters to keep them out of the rain and elements if they need to get out of the elements. But for the most part, they're just going to be completely free range. And Toby and probably a second dog are going to be doing security detail. And so this, again, back to my point of doing long-term plans, that's a big part of it. And it was a way of saying, how do I create this ecosystem that keeps the predators out, lets my birds be free, and it becomes less work for me. But at the same time, it actually works together as an ecosystem itself, and that's where the dogs are really important for that, to play that predator role.
Naked Gardener is asking, do you clip the duck's wings?
I don't clip the duck's wings just because I don't really need to. They rarely will hop a fence. And that just doesn't happen all that much. They really can't fly more than 5 or 6 feet. And so it's just not an issue. The chickens are the great escape artists. And so I will often clip one of my chicken wings just to keep them from escaping so frequently. But yeah, I don't really bother with either the ducks or the geese.
It's got to be a different type of goose than what we have around here.
Yeah, really. Well, but
that's the difference between farm geese and wild geese and ducks. I mean, we have in the spring especially, we get a lot of Canada geese and we get a lot of mallard ducks. And they will fly right in and they will fly right over our fencing and get in there and they'll hang out with our birds. And that's actually relatively peaceful and cool. you look at those birds compared to my birds, like especially the ducks, even my khaki Campbells, which are a relatively lightweight, smaller duck, they look massive compared to a mallard duck, which just looks very light and slight. And so you look at the frames of farm ducks and farm geese, and they're just heavier birds that have been bred for hundreds of years to really be able to pack on that weight. And that weight makes it very hard for them to fly.
Will you get turkeys?
Maybe. I think once I do the fencing into the pasture, I might see what role turkeys could play in there. Because again, I'm really trying to plan this like an ecosystem. And whereas, the ducks and the geese have those flat feet and bills, and they do some very specific things in terms of how they dig and look for insects and eat grasses, turkeys do something very different. And so if I can have different animals doing different things to the pasture as a way to keep it healthy and well maintained, I feel like that's what success is going to look like for me. And so that will be where I start to experiment with things like more chickens and turkeys to kind of play that role.
Well, you could get an emu or two for views.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't think so. I've seen some of my friends have emus, and just not for me.
Have you ever had a bird that was too aggressive that you had to put it down early?
Yeah, I mean, I've had roosters, and I've made a couple of videos about this in the past. Like, so last year we hatched out 6 chickens, and we ended up with 2 hens and 4 roosters. And so I put down 3 of the roosters, just saying I wanted to get my ratio right for the winter, and that was always part of the plan. But then the rooster that I had really beat up on one of the hens pretty bad, and so eventually, and he was also just constantly attacking me. And so after a couple weeks of that and trying to do some remediation activities, I eventually said forget it, and just off he went to the freezer.
Okay, and Bev Dining, I see you made a comment here. I just scrolled back through it, and I did not see your question. So if you could just repeat it, make it in all caps, please, and we'll make sure that it gets addressed. And I see also that Farmer Brad is bringing up some old Wrangler Star videos here to speak, sort of, in a way. Wants to know if you can use a ram pump in your creek to fill your pond and have the overflow go back to the creek.
Yeah, so my pond, so for people who are not familiar, I went through the effort of having my buddy come by with his excavator last summer, and we dug a pond. And my plan was to see if the snow melt could fill it up and hold the water. The good news was the snow melt definitely filled it up. The bad news was that it all sort of drained out, and at this point it's more of a puddle with a big bowl around it. I am working on a plan to figure out how to seal it off better, because that's really the problem, is not retaining water. So even if I was pumping water from the creek, I would really just be filling up a leaking bucket.
So you need a clay stopper.
Yes, well, so the 2 ideas I have are, there's a couple of different clay substances I can apply to the ground that will potentially seal it off, and so that's one thing I'm looking at. The other thing I'm looking at is actually pigs. So actually containing for a couple of years some pigs inside that bowl. So like I would, each spring get a couple feeder pigs, keep them out there for, a few months, and then, off to the freezer they go, and maybe do that for 2 or 3 years. If I did that, it looks like I might actually seal in the pond just by compaction alone in terms of the pig's effect on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so that's something I'm seriously considering as well. So I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet, but I'm doing my research right now.
Okay, and the question has been asked here by Bev Dinning. Morgan, are you going to go 6 days a week on YouTube?
Bev, I would love to, but I cannot see that, at least right now. Like I've said before, I've got all the farm work and actually trying to run the farm like a business. I've got a day job where I'm working probably 50 hours a week doing that, and then YouTube sits on top of that, plus the podcast. Plus, I'm actually still working on the book, And so just from a time perspective, I won't be able to pull it off. You know, someday in the future, if I'm not working my day job anymore and I was just doing farming and YouTube and maybe writing, I probably would up the number of videos I do per week. But I don't think I'd ever actually probably go more than 5, because I think the other thing that's important is, and this is really important how at least I personally see the videos I make, I always want to really try to tell a good story in each video. And to have that pressure of having to produce a good story in each video 6 days a week, I think I would burn myself out. And so I think that would be a tough one to try to go after. But I do foresee in the future doing more videos. So more than the 2 that I do a week. Every once in a while, even now, I'll slip in an extra one here and there. But I doubt I'll ever get up to 6.
Have you ever watched The Biggest Little Farm on Netflix? And your thoughts and comments?
Yes, I have. Great film. It's very interesting. Yes, I really enjoyed it. It's funny, it's funny for me because I feel like the goals that those folks have are not that dissimilar to the goals that Allison and I have, but we're going about how we build it very different. I feel like, they invested a fair amount of money and got financing to do a lot of things to help their scale right out of the gate. And so that they have for a little farm, a relatively large scale, the approach we're taking is almost the exact opposite, where we are starting as small as possible and trying to do things completely sort of bootstrap funded. I mean, like I've said, we use the YouTube revenue to fund the farm infrastructure and trying to grow profitably at each size. So, whether we're breeding 40 ducks, or if we're doing 40 ducks and 40 geese, or if we're doing 500 geese and 500 ducks, like wanting to be profitable at each of those stages. And so that's how we're growing the farm right now. It's a slower process. But I don't know. I think that what we're trying to do is find a model that could be sustainable for other people to start farms too, because I think there aren't enough small farmers out there, and finding a model that could work for other people is part of what we're trying to do here.
Thomas Schmidt has left a comment here that when you're ready for pigs, so let him know. So I don't know if he's got extra ones or what, but
I will most definitely do that.
So what is the name of this young man's channel? This would be Goldshaw Farm. Betty Boo. It would be Goldshaw Farm. And
check it out.
Yeah, check it out. By all means, go over and hit that little subscribe button, and he will embrace your head with all kinds of duck things.
Yep. Can one of our mods put his link, please? Thank you, Sky. Appreciate that.
All right. Well,
and we'll be having gangster duck T-shirts for sale.
Yeah. Well, I think we've kept him long enough here.
Yeah, I do. I'm curious though. One more question: how did you come up with the name?
The name Goldshaw Farm. Okay, so obviously my name is Morgan Gold. So the gold part is just directly derived from our last name, but actually the farm that we're on, the Shaw family, completely unrelated to my family, but they had our farm from like 1870 to like the mid 1970s. They owned this farm, and even a lot of the old timers around here today, they don't call it Goldshaw Farm. They just call it the Shaw Farm, because it was for so long in the community known as that. And actually, in fact, the people who owned our farm directly before us, they had it for about 15 years, and they did an organic vegetable farm, and they called it Old Shaw Farm. And so when it came time for us to take over the farm and try to figure out, well, what do we want to call this place, it sort of clicked right away to say, oh, well, let's just add a letter and we'll put a G in front of old, and it's just Goldshaw Farm. And so that's really how it came together. A little bit of a hand-me-down with our own sort of personal stamp added to it.
Cool. I like that. And thank you, Tard Life. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much.
That goes right back into the channel.
Anything else, Morgan?
No, this was awesome. I missed hanging out with you guys. It was a lot of fun.
Well,
and we'll definitely do a Tech Tuesday very soon.
Well, I don't want you hanging up here, but Sherry, you got anything else for everybody?
No, I think tomorrow night we have Tuesday Tech. Not sure what we'll talk about, but
Well, one of the things is Thomas Schmidt Homestead Project's
oh, that's
banner.
right. That's right. Going to do the banner.
Yeah, we're gonna show people on making a banner tomorrow night on the Tech Tuesday.
Bev, I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. If it was about him going 6 days a week, he answered that and he said no because it would be too much. So I'm not sure if I missed another question or not. I do apologize for that. I think it was an awesome interview, Scott. We had a good time.
All right. Let's just stop this for just a minute. Bev Denning, you have got my undivided attention. If you would like to just type your question in right now, we will for sure get Morgan to answer your question.
Unless it's like, what's my ATM code? Because if I did that, I think I'd get in trouble. So
Yeah, because we already,
I won't answer that
we already
question.
have that, so we're not going to give it out.
We never, ever mean to overlook anybody. In some
Fair,
cases,
but while we wait for Bev, I'll answer Tiny Ducks' question here. Was there anyone that influenced me in raising ducks? Yes, there was. There's a guy by the name of Jack Spirko. I'm not sure if folks know him or not. He has a podcast called I think it's like the Survival Podcast. Really smart guy. Does like he's sort of like one of those Renaissance dudes who does like permaculture and prepping and he talks about the economy, and he also for a while was raising ducks, and he made this series of videos on YouTube a few years back called the Duck Chronicles, where it was just him getting some ducks and raising them and talking about like his lessons learned as he did it. And back in the day when I was living in Washington DC and working my corporate job and dreaming of having a farm but not actually having a farm, it was watching Jack's videos that really motivated me, and I learned a lot of things from it. In fact, I will say all ducks go to bed to get my ducks to go to bed. That was something that actually Jack was originally doing, and I just sort of adopted it myself. And so if there was one person out there that I'd point to as sort of like my duck hero, I would say it's Jack Spirko.
Oh, haven't seen a post, Daryl.
no, I haven't either. She certainly had time. So anyway, special thank you to all of our moderators out there. You do a fabulous job. You've always done a fabulous job. Special thank you to all those folks that are members of Smudge's People. And if you'd like to be a member, you can click that join button below. We appreciate you. And we're probably one of the only channels that we send our members something every month because we appreciate you that much. So anything else, Sherry?
No.
Well,
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun.
next week,
Betty Boo, thank you for being here tonight.
I think so, Daryl. Let me just double check. I don't want to say 100% yet, but I'm pretty sure that will work.
wait a minute, what will work?
Oh, I thought Tech Tuesday on next
Next
week.
Tuesday next week.
Oh, next week? Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I think. Let me just confirm, but yeah, I think that would work.
Okay. Well,
Sounds
yeah,
good.
yeah. You let me know. We'll get together here. Next week, folks, we're going to go to Mississippi. The Max.
Mm-hmm.
So the Max should be on next Monday night.
Yep.
Everybody, take care. We'll see you later.
Bye.